Today is Tuesday, November 1st. Let's call this meeting to order, 6:53 p.m. This is a special council meeting to handle the recommendations from the committee of the whole meetings regarding the budget. Our first item is our roll call. All alderpersons are present, with Alderperson Veneman appearing by Zoom. Item 3 is consider the recommendations for the budget revisions as made at the committee of the whole meeting on October 10th, 17th, 20th, and 24th. We're just kind of talking here. I think we'll just take them individually. So if you want to read item A, even though there's no action, but we can handle it that way. I'm sorry, the meeting from October 10th. And Mr. Zacher is going to be our reader, being that Mr. Veneman's on Zoom and never works so well on Zoom.
So this was Tuesday, October 10th, 2022 at 5 p.m. Item 1, call to order. Council President Veneman called the meeting to order. Item 2, discussion regarding the 2023 budget. Interim Police Chief Mike Pataki presented the 2023 Police Department budget. Fire Chief Todd Eckes presented the 2023 Fire Department budget. The 2023 budget was discussed. No action was taken at this time. Item number 3, adjourn. There being no further business before the committee, the meeting adjourned. I respectfully submit these notes to be approved.
So is that a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve these minutes.
I'm sorry, you might want to need your hit your button. There we go. We got a motion and a second. Mr. Bemke?
I have a question for the fire chief. So we've probably been through this a dozen times, but MedCompass is going to be our new physical provider, correct, for the fire department. Do we have anything solid back from them yet? Any solid number?
Yes, I thought I reported that when we talked about it. I've got it at work. Unfortunately, I didn't get the notice for this until late in the day, and I haven't been back to the office because I was on vacation. But we're going to save roughly $14,000 by moving to MedCompass. Last year, we spent around $24,000 for hazmat physicals mandated by the state. MedCompass is coming in around $10,000.
Okay.
Plus the logistical nightmare of having to send firefighters down to the hospital twice. They're coming right to the station. They're going to do it right at the station. They don't have to leave, so.
Okay. So there's going to be an approximately a $14,000 savings. The expenses that we're going to incur for the validation and through Tracy, those are through, I asked Ryan this before and I apologize, but those are budgeted through your department or through Human Resources?
Typically, prior to COVID and prior to when Tracy left, those ran through HR, I believe. And Tim's shaking his head yes over there. So that's a contract. The way I understand it is the new contract with her is she'll do both the fire department's physical agility tests and the police department's, and I think Ryan quoted me for $2,000.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I just get to it quick. Sorry.
Good.
Tim, is the money that we talked about for the 12th and 13th tier for the fire department, is that incorporated into 2023's budget?
The 12th tier is incorporated in the budget. The 13th is dependent on the grant that
Right.
they're going to apply for, so that is not accounted for in the budget because theoretically, if we got awarded the grant, then we would budget the 3 additional firefighters and obviously being offset by the grant proceeds. So, but the 12th tier is incorporated into the budget.
Okay, for the 13th, if we don't get the grant, we're not hiring the 13th tier?
I guess that's an avenue we'll have to cross when we get there, but I really feel strongly like we're gonna get that grant. I mean, it's all on hardship, and I don't know why we couldn't show a hardship with tax levy limits the way they are, the loss of the Verso income, but yet the need for firefighters, that's what SAFER stands for, staffing for adequate fire and emergency response. So I think we've proven the need for it, and I think that's a great avenue to try to get those other three with.
Right, and you'll see under the Emergency Medical Services Fund, you'll see the 12th tier net cost is budgeted there in addition to the normal staffing that we have now.
Okay, so, and I know we talked about this already, but it just kind of keeps going through my head. With the 12th tier, we kind of base that on the fact that the Medicaid payments were going to increase, and we were going to add in the overtime wages to compensate that whole 12th tier. We hope, right? This is a hope at this point in time. So if it's not, we still have to, if we're hiring them, we got to pay them. So it's going to be in the budget whether that money's there or not, right?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the 12th tier cost is a net cost, and that's, the three additional EMS paramedics. But the fire department, Chief Eckes, there's going to be some overtime savings with the additional tier there that we're hoping to realize. And I think, the mayor and I have talked about, kind of, we're in 2023 is kind of looking at getting some of those reports back on how the overtime and what's driving it, so that we can make sure that those overtime savings are being realized, not only in the fire department, but we're going to look at other departments to say, kind of give us quarterly reports on what the overtime costs and what's the driver behind that. Because obviously, when we see it in the general ledger and the expenditure, it's just an overtime number. But I think more importantly is that information, for me, the mayor, but, you, the public, is, what are the drivers of those incomes or that overtime? Because, a lot of times is that there's some stuff that's within control, and there's other things that, overtime drivers that are out of the control of, the department. So we hope to kind of bring a little bit more transparency to those overtime numbers in 2023. Also, yes, looking at, where we are in 2022, what we're bringing in, we went to a new billing service, obviously with the Medicare reimbursements. We also increased ambulance rates. I'm projecting about a $228,000 increase in ambulance revenue that'll help offset that 12th tier cost.
But in the end, I mean, the way we were talking about it was this money's going to be there. And that's what we agreed to in hiring the 12th tier, was that money's all going to be there. But again, after next year is when we're going to see where that money comes in. But ultimately, we have a 12th tier. That's not something that it wasn't dependent upon that. It was just, we want to bring in a 12th tier, and then hopefully this money will cover that. But ultimately, we have a 12th tier. I mean, it's here for 2023, 2024, and moving forward, no matter where that money comes in, correct?
Can I say something? I don't think that we're hoping that money's going to be there. Medicare has already increased beginning this year, and that's some of the realized savings that money that we've gained on there. But it's the idea that we raised our ambulance fees, which hadn't been done in like 7 or 8 years, and we were way behind the curve compared to other ambulance services, along with the idea that our new billing agent is getting better results than we had before. I think, Tim, you said we were about 23% above what we were last year?
In collections,
Yeah.
through
So
September.
So between all of that, and then next year, it has to be signed into law, or has to be initiated because it's already signed into law, is the act, it's called GEMT, where Medicaid will get paid up to the Medicare level. The projections I've done is the city looks to have a great increase in revenue coming in. Conservatively, I'd say around $300,000 from that. And that's already been signed in and has to be instituted this year. So and that's got to be done before the end of the year. So that's a revenue that wasn't even thought about for this, that you're going to see before the end of the year.
Okay. The reason I'm asking these questions for my own sake is that we're going to still talk about the $2 million that we're going to take out in debt in order to fulfill our budget this year. So in my take, I guess if there is this extra revenue that's coming in, my hope is that some of that can be used towards going to the debt that we're going to try not to accumulate if it goes into the general fund. Go ahead.
Tim can say yes or no to this, but the money that's generated off of like that EMS has to stay in the EMS. Correct,
I
Tim?
don't think it has to.
Well, yeah, but also that the general tax levy does subsidize the operation to $1.2 million, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none. Please cast your ballots to adopt a report with no action. Dean, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carried, 8 ayes, 0 nays. We can move on to item B, October 17th. I believe there's a couple motions in that report. They're highlighted, or at least they're listed on the council agenda as item 1 and item 2. So if you did want to hold out an item, probably call out the item on the council agenda that you want to hold out, if you do. Mr. Zacher.
This committee of the whole meeting for Tuesday, October 17th, 2022 at 5 p.m. Item number 1, call to order. Council President Benjamin called the meeting to order at 5 o'clock p.m. Item 2, discussion regarding the 2023 budget. The 2023 budget was discussed. Public Works Superintendent Paul Vollert presented the 2023 Street Department budget. City Engineer Joe Eichstad presented the 2023 engineering budget. It was moved by Delaney, seconded by Zacher, to remove $92,802 from the engineering department budget, with half from sidewalks repair and the other half from the curb and gutter contract. Motion failed, 3 ayes to 4 nays. Austin, Evanson, Polak, and Benjamin voted in the negative. It was moved by Benjamin, seconded by Bemke, seconded by Veneman, to remove the Public Works Capital Improvements Project for 2023, the West Riverview Expressway from Chase Street to West Grand Avenue. Motion carried, 5 ayes, 2 nays. Evenson and Polak voted in the negative. It was moved by Bemke, seconded by Austin, to add $200,000 to the concrete maintenance line item. Motion carried, 4 ayes, 3 nays. Veneman, Zacher, Delaney voted in the negative. Item number 3, adjourn. There being no further business before the committee, the meeting adjourned at 7:25. I make a motion to accept these minutes as presented. Did you do it? Thank you.
Yep. Go ahead, Patrick.
I think I'd like to hold out 2, not that I would vote against it.
Okay.
I don't know if we just want to discuss it. Can we discuss it?
Yeah, if you don't want to vote, I guess, other than to approve it.
So this $200,000 was added back in, which is over 10% of the debt. After taking out $670,000, this was money that was not, it'll go back into the general fund. It was not anticipated to go back to the concrete maintenance. And in my opinion, I think that it definitely should stay out.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Tim. $200,000 is normally in the budget for concrete maintenance. And this year what they did is they took that normal $200,000 and put it with additional money to do the Chase or that expressway project. So when the expressway project was removed, the $200,000 was put back in as as the normal concrete maintenance that they do normally every year.
Correct. It's, annually, they budget approximately $200,000 for the concrete pavement patching, and that's always been funded through the tax levy and is not, added on to the annual debt issue.
So they're just putting in what's normally in the budget, but that was used to help fund that project. They were going to forego doing the other concrete maintenance to do that big project.
I understand that. We took that out of the budget though, the $670,000.
Yep.
And I think that should be the amount taken out. I guess I'll just take out 2, then we
Okay.
can vote on it.
So holding out item 2, everyone good with that? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. So balance of the report. Any further discussion?
Well, I want to make sure, I understood. So that 200,000 was actually in item 1, right? Because
Yes, you are correct. It was incorporated in item 1 to help fund that project. But then when that whole item was taken out, that was also removed.
okay, and so that's when it was moved to put it back in.
Correct, to do the concrete maintenance patching.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your ballots.
For the balance of the report,
Yes, sir. How do you vote, Mr. Benjamin?
are we just accepting item 1? Is that,
Correct.
because 2 got held up?
Correct.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. That motion carried 8 ayes, 0 nays. Mr. Delaney regarding item 2. Yep, let's give the clerk a second here. That was the ballot. Mr. Delaney. Any further discussion?
No further discussion.
Okay.
Thank you.
What are your wishes on item 2 as a council then?
I'll make a motion to withhold.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. So I have a motion by Austin, second by Bemke to approve the item as presented. Any discussion? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. Mr. Benjamin?
Nay? No?
That motion carried 5 ayes, 3 nays. And Mr. Zacher, we're on item C, October 20th meeting.
Committee of the whole meeting held on Tuesday, October 20th, 2022 at 5 PM. Call to order. Council President Veneman called the meeting to order at 5 PM. Item 2, discussion regarding the 2023 budget. Waterworks and Lighting presented their 2023 budget. It was moved by Bemke, seconded by Austin to approve the 2023 Waterworks and Lighting budget as presented. Motion carried, 6 ayes, 1 nay. Delaney voted in the negative. Jake Klingsforth presented the 2023 Parks and Recreation budget. It was moved by Delaney, seconded by Veneman to remove $10,000 from contract payments in the tree care maintenance account and otherwise approve the Park and Recreation budget as presented. Motion carried, 7 ayes, 0 nays. Item 3, adjournment. Being no further business before the committee, the meeting adjourned at 6:03 PM. I make a motion to submit these minutes as presented.
Second,
We have a motion by, motion to approve by Zach or,
I'd like to hold up one
okay.
on the agenda, right?
Correct. The water and light budget? Okay. Everybody good with that? Holding on item 1? Okay. And then Mr. Delaney. Oh, I know what you wanted. How you doing, clerk? So how about, so we're gonna hold out item 1. I have a motion and a second to approve the balance of the report. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. Mr. Benjamin,
aye.
thank you. That motion carried, 8 ayes, 0 nays. Regarding item 1. Yep, we'll let you catch up. No, you're good. Correct. Anybody wish to speak or is, okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that I'm going to vote no for the budget, and the reason why is because the rest of the staff that we approved a 3% increase across the board, and they have a 5% in their budget, and I feel that we should all be at the 3%. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Delaney?
So I'd just like to talk on this budget that's very sizable. We ended up getting it Monday evening, the meeting, I think it was on Thursday that we had the meeting, and which really doesn't give you much time to review or meet with anybody to talk with them about it. But I was told that we can't do anything about this budget anyways because it's run by the commission. That's what I was told.
No,
So,
you have to approve their budget. They have to bring the budget to you. You can
yeah,
do what you want with it.
so I'm definitely voting no on this for those reasons.
Any further discussion? I guess I have a question then. So if there's something in there that council wants to change, they can strike through it? Oh, okay. Mr. Bemke, did you have a?
I guess I'd just like to make a comment, and that is that Water and Light, like every other public meeting, it was posted, and there was notice posted that there was a hearing on the budget, and it was open to the public, so anybody that wanted to attend was more than welcome. So I don't disagree with you, Patrick, that sometimes we get things late, but there was a public meeting, and it was posted, so, thank you.
Any other discussion? What are the council's wishes?
I'll make a motion to approve the budget.
Oh, I'm
Or-
sorry, regarding item 1. Yeah, regarding item 1.
I can.
And is there a second? We have a second. Any further discussion? Please cast your ballots. Mr. Benjamin,
Aye.
that motion carried, 5 ayes, 3 nays. Okay, we are on to item D, which is October 27th, which actually was the 24th meeting. Mr. Zacher. Do you have your mic on? There you go.
Committee of the Whole meeting, Tuesday, October 24, 2022. Meeting was called to order at 5:03 PM. Item number 2, discussion regarding the 2023 budget. 2023 budget was discussed. It was moved by Delaney, seconded by Zacher, to reduce the library appropriation by $755,244.25. The motion failed, 3 ayes to 4 nays. Zacher, Palak, and Delaney voted in the affirmative. It was moved by Zacher, seconded by Delaney, to reduce the library appropriation by $350,000. Motion carried, 4 ayes, 3 nays. Austin, Evenson, and Bemke voted in the negative. Alderperson Evenson left the meeting at 6:40. It was moved by Veneman, seconded by Austin, to use ARPA funds to replace the roof on the Centralia Center and the 6 rooftop units, while additionally utilizing the $250,000 in the Centralia replacement account. The balance of the ARPA funds would be used for road projects. Motion carried, 6 ayes to 0 nays. Item number 3, adjourn. There being no further business to discuss before the committee, the meeting adjourned at 7:15 PM. I make a motion to submit these minutes as read.
I would
Yeah.
like to keep out number 1.
And there's a second. Mr. Zacher, or Mr. Austin's first on the,
I'd like to hold out item one.
oh, okay. Everybody good with that? Yeah, item 1.
Item 1's the only one we're holding out?
Well, so far. Is there any other items that wish to be held out?
I'll hold out item, would it be item, the ARPA? Is that
4?
4?
You guys say something, Mr. Bemke?
Nope, I wanted to hold out ARPA as well.
Okay. I guess which,
Are we holding out just 4 of ARPA or, and leaving 2 of ARPA in?
I was just gonna ask that. So, item 3 is dealing with the rooftop replacement, and item 4 is the road projects. Hold on a sec.
I'd like to hold out 3. Is that
Yep, that's the rooftop.
the roof? Okay.
So we'll hold out 1, 3, and 4. Well, wait a minute.
I meant 2, sorry.
No, we gotta pretty much hold out the whole thing then for ARPA.
Yeah. So 2, we'll take each individual item. We'll just keep each individual item. So we'll take up item 1 first, 'cause that's what probably everyone's excited to hear about. So we'll get through that one. Well, I guess we might as well, you good with, because there's nothing else left. So if you're just. No, that was for the balance of the report, so. No, we don't have anything left to balance. Yes, we probably can withdraw the motion in a second, because there's nothing to move in second. So let's withdraw those, if that's good. And then we'll take up item 1, which is to reduce the McMillan Memorial Library portion by $350,000. So that's the first item. Is there a motion on that one? Do I have a motion?
I'll move to,
Move it along.
yes.
So we have a motion in a second. Oh, well, you want to have a positive, you want to have a motion and a positive. It's
This
cleaner.
is just to bring it to the floor, is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
we have a motion and a second. I'm going to assume that we might have some people in the audience that want to speak. And I'm thinking if the council's good with that, that we recognize anybody that wants to speak. There's a 3-minute timer. And then we can get it moving along. Is everybody good with that? Okay, seeing no complaints, anybody from the audience that wishes to speak, if you could please come to the podium, state your name and your address up here at the microphone, and then people will be able to hear you. Can somebody make sure our microphone's on for Gloria? If you could state your name and address, Gloria.
Hi. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Gloria Kubiszak. I live at 531 11th Avenue North, Wisconsin Rapids, born and raised here, and have been a patron of the library since I was a child. In fact, at that time, we had a branch library here on the west side. It was right across from the Montgomery Ward building. And since that time, the library has been near and dear to my heart. You know, we can compare our library to the other facilities that we have in this town. Things like the brand new, beautiful YMCA we have. But of course, you pay a fee to go there. We have a wonderful facility for the Centralia Center. But in that case, that is an age facility. That is senior citizens. Marvelous enrichment. At the same time, we have a first-rate performing arts center. But if you want to go there, ordinarily, you're going to have to buy a ticket. And of course, we have a brand new, spanking aquatic center. And for the most part, that's used probably 3 months of the year. We have other cultural things, museums, cultural center. And why am I saying all of this? Because what you need to realize, of all the enrichment facilities we have in this city, there is one and only one which is unique and one of a kind. Why? Because every child up to adult can use that facility free. It does not matter what your income is. Every part of that library and its resources is available to you. 6 days a week, 12 months a year, and it doesn't matter what the weather is, because it's not going to be closed. You have to realize, and I know how difficult it is to manage budgets, but this is a jewel in our city, a resource that cannot be duplicated. And any cut to that is going to take away the advantages that it affords our city people. I hope, keeping in mind those who came before us, who established a library, a free library, as long ago as 1890 in this city, that we keep this city going and maintained and as vibrant as it always has been. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. Anybody else? Let's hold the applause. Go ahead, ma'am. Come on up here if you could state your name and your address, please. And you have your 3 minutes. Is your microphone on, ma'am? Is there a green light on?
There it is.
Okay,
Okay,
thank
do you
you.
want me to start over? Okay. Families in this area are facing big cuts to their budget. We've had a loss of jobs. The library is free. Now, you are numbers people. I want to give you some comparisons, and I disclose that I also work in a library, so I have access to this information. The Macmillan Library had 61,000 visits last year, a little over. The Menasha Library had about 53,000. It's a comparable sized library with a comparable budget. Macmillan has 14,000 registered borrowers, and the Elisha Library, the Elisha Smith Library in Menasha, had about 12,000. Macmillan circulated over 200,000 items last year. The Elisha Smith Library circulated approximately 208,000. The difference is Macmillan Library owns 87,000 items and Elisha Smith owns 105,000 items. But the real indicator of how this library is used is in the wireless sessions. Elisha Smith in Menasha, who has a higher level of living, a higher standard, higher wages, had 28,000 wireless usages. Macmillan had 232,000. That's kids going to the library because they don't have internet at home. That's how they're accessing the computer and the resources, online Gale courses, which Macmillan offers. These are things that if you do not have a library card and you do not use the library, you may not be aware of. I have found that libraries are a unifying force. Families come in, and it is very poor families that do not have many resources at home. It is also very wealthy families. It disturbs me that you are even considering a sizable cut since Catherine has been recently hired within the last 2 months. She hasn't even gotten a chance to get her feet under her or to get a grip on the budget. I would ask that you consider giving her 1 year to focus on what the library needs to do, maybe where they do need to streamline, but that would be impossible to do when she's been here for 8 weeks. I don't know that any of you could tackle the task set before her. So I urge you to reconsider your budget, talk with Catherine, and listen to your constituents, because the last time I've checked, the public library is the most respected public institution paid for by tax dollars. That's what people value the most. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to? Go ahead, Laura. State your name and address, please.
Hello, my name is Laura Valenstein. I live on 731 3rd Street South. I'm also the Wood County Board of Supervisors Vice Chair, and the library is within my district. I'm in District 12. The library is very important to me, both as a local politician and as a parent and citizen. On the citizen side, I have 3 children. We use the library at least weekly, not only for materials, but we also use the teen program. We go on the bike trips. We go to movie nights. The Youth Art Month is a huge fest for our family. This would be detrimental to what the library can offer, not to mention the brand new makerspace that hopefully can be used by a lot of people. As a public service member, I really believe that the library serves some of our most underserved populations. It provides services, like Gloria mentioned before, that are free, where we can't get a lot of that in the community elsewhere. I'm a millennial. People love to hate on millennials, but I like that. But millennials, as far as I know, the millennials I know, they want public services. They want public spaces. We don't have malls anymore that we can go hang out in. The library is that public space. And we like to talk about placemaking efforts. The library is one of the best places we can offer. We want walkable public spaces where we can all congregate and be together and have that sense of community. I really hope you reconsider this. I know firsthand how difficult it is to balance a budget, and so I don't claim to understand the challenges that you're currently facing, but I hope that there's a better way we can address this problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Anybody else wish to speak? Go ahead, ma'am, in the back there. Please state your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Signe Jorgensen, and I live at 641 Dewey Street here in Wisconsin Rapids. I just wanted to start out by saying that I am a lifelong library user. I have been using Macmillan Library since before I can remember. When I was 18 years old, I moved out of Wisconsin Rapids to go to college, to go to graduate school, to be a professor at Lakeland University in Sheboygan. And I recently moved back to town about a year ago. So I am now self-employed. I work from home, and there's a lot of distractions there. You know, dogs, the refrigerator, everything. So I spend probably about 12 hours a week actually working at the library. And while I'm there, I see a lot. You know, I see what our community is actually using the library for. People come in after school, teenagers, kids, as a place to go to be safe, to have fun, to socialize, to get a snack, actually. You know, some of the clubs provide snacks, and that's important for a lot of kids in our community. You know, people come in to use the internet. I see library workers helping people fill out like insurance paperwork, people that don't know how to do that. The library offers that service. Basically, the library does a lot more than check out books, and I think it's really important to recognize that. I've also noticed, as somebody else mentioned, the user base is incredibly broad. It's very hard to say, oh, library users look like this, because they don't. I've noticed families. I've noticed seniors, teenagers, you know, people with their NPR tote bags, people who are sitting in the corner watching Fox News on the public computer. I mean, it's everybody. And so if we cut the budget, we're not just impacting one area of our population. We are going to be impacting our whole population. People love the library. People use the services. And I really can't emphasize enough how great our library is. As I said, I've lived in other places. I've used public libraries in other places, and they're good, but our library is great. We really offer a lot of services, especially for a town of this size, and we're lucky. I think maybe a lot of us don't realize how lucky we are, especially if we've never been regular patrons at another library. So as we move forward, I would really urge you to think about who you're affecting with this cut and what it's going to mean for all citizens of Wisconsin Rapids. Because like I said, it's not one group of people, it really is everybody. Our library is one of our best assets, and I feel like we have to preserve it.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
Good evening. My name is Carla Lenk. I live at 3140 Swanson Road. I come with a different perspective. I am a SCORE counselor with the U.S. Small Business Administration. I counsel people who want to go into business or are having problems in existing businesses. What do I use? I use the library. Their confidential rooms that they have are a godsend. I don't like to be in an open area or a public area where people can hear what we're saying. People who come to me don't want to have other people know. If you've gone into business on your own, you know that everything is private. They don't want to hear your ideas. They just want to be out in the communication for the world to hear. So I value that library and the new rooms that they have. I've used it 5 times now with 5 different clients since July. 2 are probably going to be in business before July of 2023. 3 are still kind of thinking about it and wondering where they're going to get money. So it is something that has value that they're bringing into the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Kyle? You can speak from there too if you want. It's up to you.
Kyle Kearns, Director of Community Development. I speak as the Community Development Director for the city, also as just a citizen that also utilizes libraries. I've got 3 young family members, and my wife is at our local library weekly. In regards to community development, it's uses like a library that build upon sense of place. It's those things that then can entice development, mixed use, housing. Developers and patrons of those facilities look for those civic type uses, and those spaces can help to promote the creative collective, arts and culture within the community. And I think it's something that is a great asset to the community. It's a great asset to have it in our downtown. I would believe that a cut to this magnitude would significantly affect the level of service that the library is providing, which again can directly relate to any sort of development that I'm trying to entice within the downtown and within the community for that matter. So I certainly support the level of service that they provide, and I think also, moreover, to the speaker's last comment in regards to entrepreneurial, educational type initiatives, I think that meets a need in the community to spark some of those business ideas, to grow some of those ideas into real businesses that are then locating within brick and mortar stores within the community, hiring employees, and circulating wealth and money in our community. So again, from a community development standpoint, support this in terms of supporting, funding it at the current level because of its impact within the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kearns. Go ahead, ma'am. Please come to the microphone. Yep. Yes, you can speak.
Okay. Hi.
If you could state your name and address,
I
please.
can speak then? Okay. My name is Kay Baziner, and I live at 2710 Grand Forest Drive, Wisconsin Rapids in Grand Forest. Grand Rapids. I'm speaking kind of off the cuff. I hope that you'll listen to your constituents that value the library. I moved here about 22 years ago, and I'm just going to be honest, it was a difficult move because I came from a different city that had lots of things that were going for it, and our community was lacking. The Y was lacking. There was no aquatic centers. Tom Ryome and myself tried to get that going. We had missteps along the way, and it didn't come around until now. Now you've got a beautiful Y, you've got a beautiful aquatic center, and one of the biggest things that was a highlight when I moved here was the library. Now it's been years since I've used it, I'm just gonna be honest, but I heard about all this new stuff that you brought in. There was a $2 million renovation not too long ago, maybe last year I think it was, and I can't believe that you would cut the budget by half to begin with, and now a third. That just doesn't make any sense, especially when you do have such a beautiful library that is used by so many other people. And I'm confident that I will start using it more now that I know the things that are available to everybody. What was it? There's some, what are all the things that the maker space. She said there's sewing machines. I mean, all these things I didn't know besides the books. We've been busy with our kids. It's not that I didn't want to go to the library. We just have been really busy. But I can find myself going down there and checking out the sewing machines, checking out the forge. I think there's a whole bunch of different craft things that you can do. I have my son just moved here with his family. They just had a baby. My other son was thinking about moving back. I have another son that's living here, 4 sons. And they are having kids, and I know that that was one of the most valuable things that came with our move here. So please reconsider, or at the very least, explain why you would cut it by that big of amount. Doesn't make any sense, especially after you just put $2 million into it. Thanks.
Thank you. Bill? State your name and address and no jokes.
Hi, I'm Bill Clendenning, and I'm on the library board. I'm also on the South Central Library Board, which is held in Madison, Wisconsin. I also a member of the town board of the town of Grand Rapids, and I represent on the county board. My entire district lies within the town of Grand Rapids. And I got many phone calls today on this, and I have since you brought this up. One thing I'm going to tell you for the old timers, I don't know if you ever went to the cowboy band that's there. I mean, that place is just packed. You know, it's a great place to go. And like I said, we just had a $2 million expansion on that. With this cut, we're not going to have people enough we're going to have to cut people, and they're not going to be enough for our maker space. To have somebody in there, to have somebody trained for that maker space. So I just hope you would reconsider it. I think this was too large a cut, and please reconsider it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Go ahead, Jay.
So,
Yes.
so you're on the county board, you're on the library board. Could you talk about a little bit about the source of funding through the county and where we're at the levels and where you
Yes.
see us heading?
Well, yeah, statutorily through the county, we could start out at 70%. We've been at 70% a few years back. I've been on the county board 18 years, and we went from 70%, and this year we went to 100% given to the library. So it's kind of the same. I mean, being on the South Central Library, I get a lot of this information, and we're well known in Madison just for what we do and how we do it. So, yes.
Hey, Bill. So, Bill, last year was at 85%, and this year for
Yes.
2023, you're going to fund it at 100%?
100%.
Congratulations. That's excellent. Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? You're free. Any other people from the audience like to speak? I know Catherine would like to probably speak. She handed out a handout, but I just want to make sure everybody in the audience has had an opportunity to speak and be heard. All right. You can probably turn off the timer, and Catherine.
Hello, everyone. Yes, so I'm here to answer any questions that were brought up by those wonderful comments from our community members. But I also wanted to kind of briefly touch on the information we received on Monday, the 24th, right before the meeting. Councilman Delaney passed out this wonderful packet of statistics. And he made some really wonderful points. I think there was some confusion about where the level of cut is coming from. And originally, Councilman Delaney made that 750 motion, which then Zacher kind of cut in half. So that's kind of where the number was coming from for those interested. But I just wanted to kind of point out that using the different data points, you're kind of missing the forest for the trees, right? Each data point is interesting and important, and the data that Patrick pulled out from the DPI's annual report is really fascinating, right? But I used kind of a similar, his points using the square footage of the library, and instead of focusing on the total operating expenditures, I focused on something that I consider to be more relevant to this group, which is municipal appropriation. The data point that Councilman Delaney was using was holding additional funding against us. We do get significant funds from Wood County because of all the circulation that takes place from citizens from outside of the city of Rapids. But when you're looking at square footage, that's how I'm sorting it, just like Patrick's spreadsheet, you see that we come in below average looking at the specific municipal appropriation. So what other cities are providing for their municipal libraries. Obviously, again, even within my own spreadsheet, you see kind of the differences because Portage, of course, is a county system. So they're not getting any funding from their municipality. Even with that as a 0, we're still coming in under the average of this group, 10 above and 10 below. Does anybody have questions about this?
I just have one question. So you, by saying Portage, you mean Stevens Point. Does that include all 3 branches that you are talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the full county library system.
Yeah, they're taking care of 3.
Yeah.
For 1.7
Mhm.
total.
Well, you're,
Oh, sorry.
yes. So that's a different library altogether. Libraries that are smaller footprints, we're dealing with one facility that is the size of 3 different facilities. So a smaller building is easier for library staff to manage for a lot of different reasons. Clear sight lines. The police chief isn't here tonight, but when a library such as ours is multiple levels and the majority is public space, that's a lot of ground to cover. I can't speak to every single Portage County library, but I've been into the Stevens Point, and it's pretty tiny. I wouldn't need 4 or 5 staff members to staff that on an hourly basis to ensure their patrons are safe. I love giving you more information.
Sherry, did you have a? If Catherine, you can continue on if you.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm just here to answer questions.
okay.
Does anybody have anything for me? I know I've spoken to a number of councilmen since the meeting.
You can recognize if you want.
Did you want to say anything, ma'am? Could you come up to the microphone, please? Thank you.
Again, my name is Darla Allen, and I can speak to the Portage County Library System because I used to be the extension librarian. The Plover Branch Library is open a limited number of hours. They are not open full-time. It is a 1-floor library in an, it used to be a home. It was a church. It is located on a side residential street, Roosevelt Drive. It's probably 2,500 square feet. And you have a clear view of the whole room because it's one big room. The Roschholt Library is located next to the old fire department. It has concrete floors, 1 room, open limited hours. I would say probably 15 hours a week. I would have to review that. And the Allman Library is pretty much a glorified broom closet. It's quite small. Again, you have a desk. You have about 4 sets of shelves in there. Very small, very limited hours. So to say, well, Portage County has 4 libraries. It's still, all of them together is smaller than McMillan. It's comparable, I guess I would say. But one person can run Roschholt and Allman because they're open opposite days. Less staff. I know because I had to cover all 3 of them. So just to clarify, that's how the Portage County Library System works because I worked there for 8 years. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess open the floor to the council for a discussion on your motion. Sure. Did you? Okay.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you for the public for coming. The many emails that I have received, I'm sure as the council, phone calls. It's great to see you step up to an invaluable resource that we have in this community. I just have one question for Tim. In the proposed 2023 budget, it says Wood County $558,950. The email that I received from the finance office at Wood County at the 100% reimbursement rate, as Mr. Clendenning talked about, is actually $657,986. which is a difference of $99,036. Is that what you're coming up with?
I have not received the revised figure from the original budget submittal. Obviously, when did the county board meet?
They,
It was at the original estimate was at an 85% reimbursement rate, correct?
Yes, so this is kind of another complication. So when we built this budget a couple of, 3 weeks into my tenure here, the recommendation I was hearing from a certain Wood County Board Supervisor said that 85% would be the safe way to forecast this, because historically, that's what we've received. As of right now, the 100% has been supported by kind of their finance council, but it hasn't been formally approved by the full board. And that will not happen until later this month. Okay, he's saying it's the operations committee, not their finance, but, so you're right. We could theoretically have an additional $100,000, and hopefully we do, but that is also not guaranteed, which makes building this budget even more complicated, because no matter what, that will change year to year because of, usage statistics and our operating expenditures.
thank you.
Patrick.
So last week, Alderperson Evanson had asked me which numbers I had to use for comparisons, which I had labels on each of them, but for the funding sources. So I compared the total operating expenditures, per capita local resident support, municipal population, as well as library sorted by square footage, which we got another copy of today. These are actually the best numbers I could give for comparison, including the comparison which showed the overfunding amount of $755,000. If you compare other fields such as overall funding, total municipal funding, or just by averaging municipal funding, looks much worse for the McMillan Library. McMillan is 30th in overall funding. That's a top 8%. This includes library systems which fund more than one library. If we take out those libraries with multiple locations, McMillan is ranked 16th out of 380. That's top 5%. If considering total resident support, McMillan stands at rank 28th out of 380, top 8%. Again, if taking out library systems which have multiple locations, McMillan ranks 18th, which is top 5%, with 0 other municipalities smaller than ours. Averaging the state municipal resident funding, the average municipality gives their local library $346,904. That average is nowhere near $1.3 million. McMillan is almost $1 million over the average of municipal resident funding. A $350,000 budget cut moves us from the 28th rank to 41st out of 380. Still in the top 11%. As I had proposed, a $755,000 cut would put us at 72nd, which is still in the top 20% of all the libraries in the state of Wisconsin. The local library has been taking advantage of inept councils for years, and in turn taking advantage of the citizens of Wisconsin Rapids by the budget they've been approved year after year. It's time to work towards a more reasonable budget for the library. A $350,000 budget cut is not nearly enough to put us where we should be, but it is a start. 2 different averages show an overfunding amount between $755,000 to close to $1 million. Voting to bring the library budget in line with library budgets across the state is not an easy vote, but it is the right vote for the citizens of Wisconsin Rapids.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'd like to add some things.
Go ahead, Dean.
First of all, I want to commend Catherine for putting everything together in such a short period of time. Obviously, she had 3-4 weeks to put together a budget that, quite frankly, was a little bit overinflated in previous administration, previous. There's a couple of issues that I want to address. First of all, I think that at this point, I do think the 355,000 is a little higher. I do think there needs to be some cuts. I think that's a little higher. But I would possibly like to discuss maybe making a motion for a lower amount. But there's a couple of glaring things. And first of all, like I said, I want to commend Catherine. We had met and I talked, and previous budget had 121. There was 147,000 for buildings and grounds, and 2022, that was the 2021 actual, and then 2022 they budgeted 140,000, and I appreciate Catherine did get that down to 95,000, but I still think that building the grounds number is outrageous in itself. But the true elephant in the room, I guess, would be the balloon payment that's coming due on the solar panels on the roof, $150,000. That I'm not sure why I had that in the first place, but it seems like an awfully expensive ever. And so my initial vote of approving the $355,000 cut, I'm taking into consideration that balloon payment that's going to have to be made based on previous mistakes. So I'm more inclined to go with a half that, or $175,000 is where I'm thinking, which makes up for that, helps with that balloon payment. But she did add that into the budget, which, had it not been for that, she'd have been fairly cut, but that was something that she came in and tried to manage a budget that was, quite frankly, out of control. And I think that Mr. Delaney pointed that out several ways. So at 355, I would vote no, but I would probably come back and make a motion for a smaller cut. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Thacker.
Catherine, I just want to say, great job. Way to mobilize the troops and get everybody on board. And I think it was great. I knew you were the right person for the job, and I think no matter what happens, you're going to do a great job with it. Sometimes I just feel like I'm not necessarily the right person for this job, because I kind of go back and forth, and I understand both sides of the situation. And but my mind is pretty simple. My mind says we're going to go and take $2 million out of debt this year, and we took almost 5 last year. Years before that, we took 15 million for the water park, 5 million for the river. I know we owe a bunch of money for WWLC. We owe a bunch of money for waterworks. I guess for the community itself, and it's weird because it doesn't seem like that many people are too worried about it. When I see all that debt, I get pretty freaked out, I guess. I don't run my life that way. I don't run a business that way. So I see it pretty simple, and I want to try to get down to the basics and just go, this is what we have to cut the budget by in order to stop taking out debt, at least for a while, to get some kind of a reprieve on the debt and the amount of money we're paying on the debt. But at the same time, nobody wants to give up any money. I sat through all the budget meetings with Tim and with Shane. All the department budgets came in higher than they were last year. even though they know we're seeking out money to try to get them down as far as we can. And we're just adding more and we're adding more, and we're not the community that we used to be. You know, we know the big mill's gone and we know things are changing. I guess I'd like stability, but again, we don't want to give up what we've always had, and what we have now is a massive library. And it's huge because it was built by people who had huge amounts of money that could build this, you know, gem of a library. And now most of those people are gone. So now we have to maintain it with the few dollars that we have as a city. Well, I mean, we have lots of dollars, but they go real fast, and they don't go as far as you want them to go. So, yeah, you know, it's not like anybody hates the library. That's not the case. And to me, it's just trying to figure out how to balance everything so that we have more security for the future and more safety in terms of our financial future as a community as we rebuild from the ground up. And, you know, when I think about the library and the things that are possible there, you know, I wrote my whole ARPA thing about, you know, money with the library and developing these entrepreneurial activities, because to me, the way we're going to survive is we're going to build our community from the ground up. The young, the middle, the old people, you know, like, we got to develop businesses here. We can't wait for somebody else to come save us. Like, we have to develop the jobs here. And if all things are equal and however things work out tonight, either way, that's what the library is going to help us do.
Now, thank you so much for the compliment. I am going to push back on you on one point. We did come under budget for our 2023 request from the city of Rapids. So we came in under budget. We came in under our 2022 request. And it doesn't look like we did when you look at the bottom line. It doesn't, because we're missing different revenue sources. But we cut almost $150K from our budget already when we walked in with this. I can't speak to other city departments because, yes, I'm still unfortunately new. And soon I'll get the lay of the land and then watch out. But we have been, the library board has been making efforts to come in and respond to the council's requests. I think many community members are wondering, why would the library be getting a 30% budget cut to pay for debt that the city took on?
I guess the way I would respond is, like, kind of like what you said. Once we give you the money, we don't get a say. Just get out of the way. But we do get to decide how much money we get to give. So.
Yes, no, I totally, yes, it's under the library board's purview, but I guess
Right.
my point was, yes, the city has debt. But why is the debt being paid off on the back of 30% of the library's budget?
Well, you could look at it that way, but you know, you could also say, why is the city? Because the way we play it out, everybody wants roads. Like, we all like to complain about how bad our roads are, even though I don't think our roads are that bad here. Some of them are. But that's the way we kind of built the budget, to say everything is funded, everybody's got their money, but we still got to do $2 million in roads. But you could really take that out and say everything's funded, we got the roads in there, but we got to find, you know, the $1.3 million for the library. So you could say we're taking out debt just to fund the library, or anything, not just the library. You could put anything in that blank, I guess, you know. So it's not like I'm trying to pick on the library.
All right, so let's, the back and forth needs to stop. I'll recognize people to speak. No, you're fine. I'm just saying that, you know, that's how we run our meetings. But Tim had his hand up. But also, I just want to let you know we lost power on the voting thing. So if you wish to speak, kind of get my attention, since you can't push your button. Go ahead, Tim.
I guess I'd just like to clarify how and when the city takes out debt. We do not issue debt for operations. That is funded through the tax levy and various revenue sources. The city has historically issued debt for capital projects. Yes, that includes street construction, that includes the aquatic center, riverbank, and other, the fire station renovation. But, when I look at the budget, you have your capital budget and you have your operating budget. And we've never issued debt to fund our operations. Now, yes, you can look at it and say, well, if we just cut the operations, then we wouldn't have to issue debt to fund the capital. But I look at it as distinctly different because capital expenditures are long-term type assets that the taxpayers and the users will use that over the life of that asset. And thus, they call it the intergenerational equity principle, where the users of that asset will pay for that asset, whereas operations are more of an annual type of operation where, the users in that budget year are using that and are paying that through the levy and other user charges and other state aids and other revenue sources. So just like to make that clarification.
I'd like to speak when possible.
Go ahead, Dean.
I think one of the unique parts of the library as opposed to different capital projects, it is the one department or funding area that has the ability to fundraise. And one of the issues with that is that, as Zachary mentioned, some of the previous high-ticket items that were added and different large donations are, as people that did that are either gone or close to it. And so you need to find other sources than Wisconsin Rapids taxpayers to raise some of these funds. And there's different ways to do that. I know it's tough, especially when you come in to an inflated budget that's used to having funds that have been raised through donations and endowments, et cetera. So we need to, you can't do fundraising for capital projects like a new, that's a different animal. Whereas the library is something that the community values, something that I value, something that we all value. And it's important that we get together as a community and try to raise money in a number of different ways. And I think that's something we should be looking at moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Go ahead, Ryan.
The Learning Futures project, it was about a $2 million price tag. What was the city's appropriation of that project? Do you know that offhand, Tim?
I do believe that was funded through the endowment. We had a small part in
Carpet.
the carpet or sky. Yeah,
skylights.
yeah,
carpet.
skylight. But
So the city
about
put,
108,000 was.
so the city put in minimal funds towards that significant project, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, and then to touch on Mr. Veneman's topic about the 150,000 for solar, that's a guesstimate, and that isn't necessarily the direction the library board is gonna go either. It's more of a contingency. And like we've talked about, it's the library board's decision on where those funds will be cut. It wouldn't be directed by anybody here on council, so that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess I have one. I'll ask a question. So I guess for Tim, so if the county raises their value to 100% at $100,000, would we correspondingly move our appropriation, or would the budget, or would the library have an extra $100,000 above and beyond their normal budget this year?
Well, I mean, I guess that's, the question is when is that going to be, formally approved? Because obviously once we approve the library appropriation, then it's the library's, it's under the you know, the direction of the library board is how they want to spend that. So it'd be one of those things where, you know, it could be where we make it, you know, their appropriation contingent upon what that funding's gonna be, so that if it comes in higher, obviously, if the budget would have been drafted knowing that information, obviously the the tax levy that's going to support the library appropriation would have been that much less. So I guess my advice would be, I don't know when, I guess that'd be
A bill
for Ms.
question?
Cl- Will that be approved at your public hearing? The 15th, I do believe. Right?
Is it? Oh, in the morning, yeah. That's right, it's about the same day as our council meeting. And I guess the same would, you
So,
know, if-
yeah, I mean, I think it'd be something that, well, the county board will actually be in the morning, so we would know by the 15th what that is, and then we could make a motion that if that appropriation obviously comes in higher, we could make it, you know, we could adjust the budget at that time.
I guess what Mr. Austin just said about potentially that 150,000 use contingency, you know, if, you know, there's, you know, what happens if you decide not to maybe continue on with that project, there's an extra 150,000 in there, you know, I guess that's kind of hard to, go ahead, Tim.
And also just the note that of that 150,000, 100,000 is being
Used from-
applied from existing funds in the library
that weren't
appropriation.
used, correct. Carryover funds. Sorry, go ahead, Sherry.
I was just curious, getting on what you were talking about, Mayor, is I would like to make a motion to decrease the budget.
We already have a
Well,
motion on the floor first.
Okay,
So we need to handle that motion first, then we can make some more?
Yep.
Thank you. It's always the same day as us, but in the afternoon. So we do have a motion on the floor to approve the item as presented, the 350,000
That
reduction.
was not the motion I was intending to make. The motion I was intending to make was to approve the library budget at the presented amount.
Could I hear that again? I didn't hear anything that was just said.
So we have a motion that we're acting on, correct, Sue? The reduction motion, can,
Well, right, but he's saying that wasn't the motion that
Okay.
he made, I guess.
so then, so regarding, and that's fine, we can clean it up, that's not a problem, but regarding that item one, then, that motion really is
Well, well,
non-existent, or?
right. I mean, I guess it depends on whether I mean, he doesn't have to make the same motion as what's on
Oh,
there. Someone
okay.
could make a different motion
So-
addressing, but I guess there was confusion on, I think,
So your motion is to fund the library at its existing level?
Correct.
Okay. So Patrick's withdrawn his, so somebody else will need to second that motion. Thank you, Mr.
I'm
Yep,
not sure that I understand. So what happened to the 355 from the previous meeting?
that was a recommendation to the council, and,
Okay, so that,
so
okay.
it was just Ryan made a different motion. Tim knows the amount appropriate, or
I guess I have a question. Since this is a council meeting, we take final action on the appropriation, can
Right.
then their budget be amended? I'm
Well, we're
thinking
not gonna, they're not gonna approve the budget until November 15th.
Okay, so this
Yeah,
is just,
this is just kind of marking it up. and
Mark it.
okay,
then
just want to make sure
they're still
Remark
gonna-
it up.
that
on
we
the
have that
5th
flexibility
Yep, on the
should the
10th.
county
Yeah,
approve the.
absolutely.
So your motion is to approve the library budget as it was presented. Correct, even though it's still with no reduction, right?
as it is on the budget,
Correct,
page 60 now.
correct. And then you seconded it? Okay. And Dean, do you understand the motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
So who moved and seconded this?
Mr. Austin motioned and Ms. Evanson seconded.
Thank you.
Tim?
I just, for clarification, just to get a number, 1,974,696, just so that we have it, so everyone's.
That's the amount of the appropriation?
Yeah.
Isn't that the total
That's
budget?
the total budget.
revenue? The
Yeah,
property
I'm just saying
tax?
the budget,
Oh, okay.
so, which would include the city's appropriation at the
Right.
current level, so.
But we don't
This
approve-
can all
We
still
don't
be-
approve their budget, we really
have-
approve just the appropriation.
Right.
Right, okay.
And so just to
So-
clarify, I'm sorry, so if it got approved as it is, and the library comes in at their full 100% with the 99,000,
Yeah.
we could reduce our budget by the 99,000.
Correct.
Which isn't really reducing the budget, it's just
Right, we
transferring
would
the revenue.
basically, it would- yeah, the city appropriation would reduce that, and then the council would make a motion of how they want to apply that in other places of the budget, or how they, reduce the levy, reduce the debt, or put a contingency, so.
Thank you.
Is that a part of the motion?
The reduction?
Correct.
No, that wouldn't be made until we find out if that's done, and it would be done at the November council meeting. You would make that adjustment at that meeting. But answer your question, that's not part of this motion. Okay. Any other questions, comments?
Could you repeat the motion?
Go ahead, Patrick.
Okay, you said that you saved $150,000 or something like that, and you came in less. Are you saying that you came in less from $1,290,745 to $1,288,207, which is just a reduction of just a little bit over $2,500?
Yes, so we cut about 150 from the budget, but it's not reflected because there's two sources of revenue that decrease moving from 22 to 23. So in 22, it looked like the carryover was $200,000. I'm projecting for 23 $100,000. So there's that $100,000 loss in revenue. And then potentially, when I made this budget, right, it was 85%. So that's the other loss of revenue from that county reimbursement. So all of the cuts that we made don't kind of show, because we are cutting a position. We cut $50,000 from operations, we cut $20,000 from materials, and a full FTE. But because of the loss of revenue, it doesn't show at the bottom line.
Okay, so what, your simple answer is yes, that $2,500 is what you're proud of, coming under budget, $2,500.
Yes, I'm proud that the library budget cut a full-time position, cut line items
Okay,
to come in under our 2022 appropriation.
and you also said the 2021 appropriation, we were also under? I think that's only like $270 less.
Oh, I was just speaking to last year, 21. I got my numbers mixed up.
Oh, okay.
Just 22.
So, I don't understand, you cut so much, but yet why aren't the residents of Wisconsin Rapids seeing any relief from those cuts? You say you cut $150,000. I understand that you lose revenue, but why is the citizens in Wisconsin Rapids only seeing a cut of $2,500?
Can you rephrase the question for me?
Oh, no.
No?
Yeah, I can. Let me see here. I understand that you say that you are going to cut $150,000. That's already been cut. But the citizens of Wisconsin Rapids are still seeing the same amount. It's only reduced by $2,500.
That's true. But had the library board not made those cuts, we would be coming in $200,000 over budget. But instead, those cuts were made.
I'm done, thank you. We can vote on it now, I guess.
I agree. Our revenues at the city and our state aids fluctuate up and down. So if they go down, we have to absorb that somewhere. And it doesn't, I see what you're saying. All right, any further comments or discussion? Okay, we're gonna have to do probably a voice vote, and we'll do a roll call vote.
Could you repeat the motion, Mayor? Thank you.
So how about I have the clerk repeat the motion? I could say that it's to approve the budget, or to approve the budget as it was originally presented.
But I think we're approving an appropriation, we're not approving their
The
budget.
Yeah. So let's approve the appropriation as originally presented.
Can you just say the dollar amount of the appropriation, please?
Do you know the dollar amount off the top of your head? Even though that it still can be
As far as
technically
what
adjusted.
the city appropriation, as far as the property tax,
Correct.
would be $1,288,207.
Did you catch that, Dean?
1,280,207.
Yeah, almost, yeah, just 1.2, 1.3 in between there.
Okay, so we're approving a 1.28 appropriation.
Correct.
Fine. I understand. Okay.
What? Correct. Any further discussion? Okay, Mr. Austin?
Aye.
Mr. Veneman?
Nay.
Mr. Zacher?
Nay.
Mr. Rayon? Ms. Evanson?
Aye.
Mr. Pollak? Mr. Delaney?
No.
Mr. Bemke?
Aye.
I think it's 5 ayes and 3 nays, so that motion carried. This might be the right time if you want to sneak out. We always have our eye on you, Bill. Can be the one brave soul. All right. Great. Okay, we are on to number 2, which was use ARPA funds to replace the roof at the Centralia Center and the 6 rooftop units and 5 controllers. But
I just had a quick question. If I had thought when we were at the, oh boy, Parks and Rec, or was it Mr. Vollert that had, when we were talking about the repairs done to the roof, that I had it in my notes that they thought that the repairs that they had done were satisfactory in order to get the roof to last another 4 to 5 years. Am I correct in my notes, or is that wrong?
no, you're correct, but it still leaks. They took care of the major things around the skylights. The people that came in, they thought it could live at least 3 more years. Correct. At least 3 more, they felt. But there are still leaks. I know, like over the stage at the theater was the biggest issue. That still leaked. But yeah, you are correct. It's not going to fall in.
Because I thought I remembered also in my notes, you saying that, the tenant shouldn't have to have buckets around, and I just wanted to clarify.
And there are buckets still, but they're not as big of buckets.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other discussion, or what are your wishes?
So.
Go ahead.
I raised my hand.
Yep, no, you're
I
good,
raised my
you're good.
hand. All
I
right.
just don't, the dialogue back and forth always
I
gets
got
me.
it. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Got a little too excited.
I think you both were.
Yeah. So,
That's true.
the only reason I pulled that out was I had a few people come to me today or through the emails I was getting that the rooftops for the Centralia seem fine, but to use that money for road projects didn't seem appropriate because it's kind of special funding for special things and just throw it on top of the roads. I don't know, I'm just putting it out there that I kind of saw where they were coming from and thought I'd bring it up.
So they're all separate, so the rooftop and the roof and those things are separate from the roads motion?
Oh, there are two.
Yeah, so they're
Okay.
two separate.
Okay,
So
let me
this-
know when we're on the roads motion then.
Sounds good.
I'll make a motion to approve. Oh, sorry.
Yep, you're good.
I'll make a motion to approve.
So we have a motion and a sec. Motions are good if you want to yell them out. So we have a motion and a second for using number 2 for ARPA funds to replace the roof at the Centralia Center and the rooftop units. Mr. Aom?
Thank you. I'm trying to, I don't know where to put this in for sure, but I would, I noticed in the ARPA handout that people received, whenever that was, a request, the city garage, $408,000 for a cold storage building.
So I wonder if it'd be best, I'm sorry to
And
interrupt.
I'm just wondering, I'm wondering where to,
I wonder
where to address that.
Maybe under 4, the use of the balance of the funds. Well, beyond, once we, if deal with Centralia and rooftops, and then, I think the next one is for the carryover, using carryover money. And then the last item would be the balance, because it talks about using the balance of the ARPA funds for road projects. And if you have other thoughts than road projects, maybe that'd be a good time to bring it up at that point.
Okay, and I guess I'd just say as we get to the end and there ain't enough money or whatever,
Oh.
to readjust, visit something that was done or somewhere to find that then or something.
Yeah, I
To
think
get the correct amount.
Yeah, I think item 4 would be that motion, or that time would be a good time to discuss, the balance funding.
Mayor?
Go ahead.
And just to get it correct, as the quote is now, was 350,000, right?
308,000.
308,000
8,000.
for each rooftop unit for 6 of them.
Correct.
And then the roof was 300.
Well, the last estimate we got from the roof was, I think, about 358,000.
So that total is?
For the rooftop units, as it stands with
there a microphone on?
308,000 and,
Is your mic on?
yeah,
Oh,
sorry.
there we go.
308,000, we have 250 in the replacement account, and I do believe the original motion was that we are gonna use that. Plus, we have contributions from other entities in the building, and there's sufficient carryover funds from those lease revenues that we probably will not have to use ARPA to fund the rooftop units. So I would just say that the roof would be the one that would come out of ARPA if the council pleases.
Thank you. I was just kind of going with Tom, okay, if we approve all this and there's nothing left,
Then
so
what?
that's where I was going through. Thank you.
Because item 3 deals with the carryover accounts, that Centralia account, so we could probably address the rooftop unit specifically in item 3. And if in item 2, you want to handle the roof itself, but we don't have the most, the updated quote was, I can't remember when we got that. But it was, I think, 358,000. Was it 400,000? Somewhere around there.
532,800, is that,
Let's see if I have it here.
maybe not.
It hasn't been put out to public bid though either. I've got a proposal here, $354,491. And that was from 2021. Just kind of throwing it out there. Now the 30 days have passed. But 358,000 back in, I think it was July of 2021.
Is there a motion on the floor?
What's the motion on the floor? Oh, Patrick
And I
did.
seconded it, right?
In a second.
So we could back it up and just do the roof number 2 and then move the rooftop units
To number 3.
to number 3.
Correct. If Patrick's
That's up
good
to
with that.
Patrick. Okay.
No, I would like to keep it as it is.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to approve the roof and the rooftop units with ARPA funds. Go ahead.
I have a question. So if it says to replace the rooftop units for ARPA funds, but we get funding, like Tim was saying, or the money that's in the budget, is it being that specific that we have to use ARPA funds for that because that's what our motion says, even though we might not need ARPA funds? Because that could be dangerous then, right? I mean, if we have funding for it. Am I confusing?
Go ahead, Tim.
If I remember, and I think it was Alderperson Veneman that made the motion, I do believe, if I remember, it's like his motion was that they would do the roof and the rooftop units less any of the, like, the replacement reserves that we had set aside for the rooftop unit. So I do believe that was his motion, if I remember correctly.
That is
That's
how,
correct.
that is how his motion in committee of the whole report.
Yeah, and that's how he's correct, I did make that motion, knowing that there was 250 or so in the reserve.
So if we approve the motion as is, and there's the 250,000 in the reserves for those rooftop units, we couldn't use that because it has to be ARPA funds, because that's what the motion is?
Correct, unless Mr. Delaney wants to use replacement account.
Okay, well, actually, the motion belongs to everybody once
That's
it's been
true.
seconded, so I would just leave it the same, so whatever.
You
So I
guys tell
can
me
vote-
what you want to do.
So if I didn't want that, I could vote no.
Correct.
And then I can make a motion to amend the motion now. Okay, so I would make a motion to amend the motion to just replace the roof
With ARPA funds?
with ARPA funds.
Okay.
Is that right? And how is the appropriation?
What?
Oh, I don't know how to state that.
I think, okay. I think what we're trying to do is just kind of set direction on how we want to utilize the ARPA funds. Obviously, when we go out for quotes for the roof, that's all going to come back to the council in the form of bids, and it still has to be appropriate. And at that time, you can determine the funding. I think the intent of the ARPA discussion was kind of setting the priorities as to what we want to apply the ARPA funds towards, but not necessarily setting the exact dollar amount because, depending on where the bids come in and, other contributions or other funding sources. So, I think that's what the intent of the discussion was, is kind of set those priorities so we can start saying, okay, let's go out for bids for the roof, see those come in, and kind of start going down that list of priorities. And really what the council is setting for staff is, this is a priority of the use of the ARPA funds, and let's, kind of start the process.
And so we'll still have time, because I thought they had to be appropriated by the end of this year.
No, we have until the end of 2024 to commit the funds and
Oh.
2026 to spend them. So
My mistake.
we have 2 budget cycles to really utilize these funds. So it's not an urgent thing. We're just kind of trying to get some priorities and set direction so we can start proceeding to utilize those funds.
Technically, do we even have to act on this?
So what part of this, if any, is a budget issue in terms of the roof, the rooftop units, and use of ARPA funds? None of it? You don't need to know any of that right now, or you do need action to put some of this money in certain line items?
Well, I think it's more of like whether we appropriate, because like for the rooftop units, or for the roof, I wouldn't know what money to put in the budget. I think what we're doing is setting a priority is how we want to utilize these funds. And then once we kind of get in, then we go through get some estimates and things like that, and then go out for bid and bring that back for formal council action as far as approving those bids and committing the ARPA funds towards that. So we don't need I think, like I said, I think the intent of the ARPA exercise, I should say, is to say, what does the council want to do as far as the priority of utilizing these funds? So that staff can start to explore the options as far as whether it's road projects, whether it's, IT server, whether it's the Centralia Center roof, or whether it's a cold storage building at the city garage. I think we just kind of need to set those priorities so we can start proceeding to, completing those projects based on what the council's wishes and priorities are.
So,
Your Honor?
go ahead, Dean.
Yeah, it was, I'm glad Tim brought it back up. That's kind of what it was. Basically, we were looking for direction more than anything else. And so it wasn't something, I don't think it's something that has to be acted on now. It's a matter of, wanted the general feel of what the council came up with, and that's kind of, at that committee as a whole, is after the 2 Centralia issues were taken care of, then that's when the roads came, what was left. So I think it was just general direction, and I think that we were prioritizing Centralia.
Correct. So at finance tonight, there was an approval to approve a bid for 308,000. No funding was
Okay.
identified through that. So I guess technically, how is that going to
Okay.
be paid for then? Go ahead, Tim.
As I said earlier, that's going to be the 250,000 plus contributions from the other tenants in the building.
There's a motion and it's. So Patrick, he stated his motion as to the roof and the 6 rooftop units with ARPA funds. That was his motion.
That is 100% correct.
That was his motion. We haven't gotten that far yet, but he hasn't included that in the motion. So then, Ms. Evanston started to amend the motion, and that's where we kind of got all confused. We can flip a coin.
I don't mean to make it difficult.
You're not.
If I withdraw mine, because if it doesn't matter, if we're saying that it doesn't matter if we use ARPA funds or not, as long as we feel that this project needs to take place, then I don't need to amend that. Then I'll just vote yes, right?
But then if you vote yes for the roof and the rooftop units to be with ARPA funds,
But that's where Tim's
I know
saying it
Tim's
doesn't
getting
matter.
frustrated over there, but that's the motion. And so what
What
about the
happens to-
replacement accounts
What
and,
happens to the next item, 3, then? If we've approved this money, what happens to that?
That's what I'm saying.
I
That's where I'm
agree.
confused. But Tim's saying it doesn't matter though, per se. Right?
I guess it all depends on what the spirit of the motion is. It's like, obviously, I think the intent was to set priorities and direction for the use of the ARPA funds. And that, once council establishes those priorities, staff is going to go about getting bids and things, but those are all going to come back to be approved for appropriation to do that. So I think really the ARPA discussion was to set the direction and priorities of the use of those funds.
Also, the spirit was to move this meeting along so we could get to the end.
I exactly the way Patrick, that's current motion on the floor. And you currently had seconded that motion. We vote on it. If it passes or fails, new motions could be made, I guess, technically.
Otherwise it
Can I
is,
just add, so you don't need any direction, we just approved a $300-some thousand rooftop unit contract. You don't need any direction in the budget or any movement of anything in the budget as presented in order for us to pay that contract.
Well, I'll actually, now that it's approved, I will put it in the budget, now that 308,000 was approved. Of
Okay,
course, it's not
but
going to be
where is it
approved.
coming from, though?
The 250,000
Okay,
replacement.
so it's
account,
already- so it's
contributions from the
already-
other tenants.
So it's already there, then?
Right, I just need to enumerate the project now in the budget for the 308,000 for the rooftop units.
because otherwise we could say, use ARPA funds to replace the 6 top rooftops, and the 250,000 would be next. That's already appropriated, not in ARPA funds.
Jay, do you have a thought in?
I do have a thought. Since we don't have bids on this, and we're talking about ARPA money that doesn't have to be spent for, or appropriated,
For the rooftop, yeah.
I thought we dealt with that already.
Not how it's gonna be paid. Well,
Can we hold this whole issue over until we get an estimate back from the roof, and then
Well,
move on from there? Well, we'll approve the I'm assuming that the finance minutes will be approved next week or in 2 weeks.
but I don't know if a funding source was identified in the finance meeting. There wasn't, yeah.
Can I interject? And I stepped out for a moment, but I see two things going on here, and I see two motions that could be made. Also, finance is a recommending body, so can't council change the recommendation on the floor of whatever finance and property recommended? So in thinking about this, could a motion be made effectively approving the bid that was provided for the rooftop units to come out of the funds that Tim has represented and any overage coming out of ARPA dollars? The second motion would then be made to approve staff to solicit bids for rooftop units that would then be brought back for approval by council moving forward. Does that address the concerns on the table right now?
Well, according to Tim, what he just said, we don't need to use ARPA dollars to fund the rooftop units. Because it would come from the replacement account and from the other tenant funds.
So to me, he's referenced $250,000, so I guess I'm thinking if there's an overage, you've already acted, then approve ARPA dollars in the event that there is an overage. So, just a thought.
But we still have a motion on the floor that states another thing. So I think we should dispose of that motion and go from there. So if you're,
Can we
No?
just vote on it?
yeah, he wants to vote on it, and we've got a second, and the motion is to use ARPA funds for the Centralia roof and the 6 rooftop units. And whatever you decide from that point, we'll decide on what's the next step.
Just want to clarify, Tim, like, we're good with what Kyle said, because that's what I was thinking. I just didn't want to add to the chaos.
I think the
So we-
motion on the floor is the chaos at the moment.
So, but we got to get rid of it. We can get rid of it.
Correct. So let's vote. Mr. Austin,
No.
Mr. Zacher,
No.
Mr. Rayon, Ms. Evans,
No.
Mr. Pollock,
Aye.
Mr. Delaney,
Yes.
Mr. Bemke.
No.
That motion was defeated, 6 nays to 2 ayes. All right, the board is clean. Mr. DeSorcy.
Just to simplify this. No, I've already adjusted the Centralia Center budget, 2023 budget, to incorporate the rooftop units with all the funding that would be approved, so. So assuming that the Finance Committee approves the bids and approves the 2023 budget, it'll all be appropriated.
So we have to do nothing regarding the rooftop units.
Correct.
We don't even have to vote on it? Yeah.
He updated the budget.
So I don't need to make a motion to approve the 6 rooftop units, the 350,000 minus the 250,000.
So, yeah, I guess technically in that case, then, yeah, the 250,000 out of the replacement account will be used to do that. So we should be good, I think, from that point, or at least the rooftop units. And now come through approval through finance report. And then we'll have to get quotes for the rooftop units. And, I'm sorry, I never want to say rooftops again. For the roof. So we'll take that, we'll get some estimates for that. And I think, you know, to Mr. Rayom's concern and question is the balance of that. You know, is the balance all going to be designated for roads or anything like that? And I think that's a future discussion. And maybe to see what the roof quotes come in as, then we'll know what that balance is. And then that allocation and any further road projects would have to go through Public Works anyways. So that would all have to go through an approval process to use for ARPA. But I think at that point, once we know the balance left, we can have a discussion on how that balance is really going to be spent.
So Sue, do we have to vote on this then?
I think, well, this was a,
But how? I thought we have to approve it. Never mind. Okay. But as far as okay, number 4, so do we have to make any more motions then? Like, for the ARPA funds, because we're not,
I think the ARPA things are just gonna come back. That's not a budget thing, I guess. I was assuming that those were all budget items that we needed to know in order to put in the budget for 2023, but if they're not, they can be decided later, so.
so we can bring that stuff individually in the future. Good?
so we still have minutes to read from tonight. yet,
So
right?
those are not on the agenda, so I will have those for the next council meeting, but there was no action taken in those minutes. So I'll bring those forth at our next meeting. Okay. Item 4.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
You missed 4 or 5, you just skipped to 6. Is that a real motion? Adjourn.
We can leave it on the table.
Agenda. Confirm discussion budget. 4 and 5. Yep, so we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All, Mr. Austin motioned, I think Zach, your second. So all in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Yes, we
I
are
do.
adjourned.
I